don't like saying Z because Z rhymes with V when you like say the alphabet, like Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. It rhymes. I like it better. Hey guys, it's Liliana. I'm doing the A to Z Bookish Survey. It's basically just a question for each letter of the alphabet, and it's about books, and yeah, so it's pretty exciting. I wanted to do this tag for a while, but I didn't know if I read enough books to answer 26 questions. So, you tell me. Alright, so let's just get right into the questions. The first question is, author you've read the most books from. And the author I read the most books from is Abby Glines. I've read 5 books from her. I don't know if you can see it, but I read these 3 and then the first one, because I don't own the first one. And then I read Until Friday Night. So, yeah, 4 from the same series and then 1 from a different series. The next question is, best sequel ever. Alright, so, did you guess it? Did you guess? The best sequel ever, I think I have to say, is A Court of Mist and Fury. It's honestly such a step up from the first book, A Court of Thorns and Roses. It's amazing. Look how friggin' big this is. Anyway, best sequel ever, ACOTAR. You can't deny it. It's just, wow. The third question is currently reading. And I have barely read any of this, but I'm gonna say The Hating Game by Sally Thorne, because I read like a page or 2 and I really want to keep reading it, so that's my currently reading. The fourth question is drink of choice while reading. If I'm drinking something, my drink of choice is definitely iced tea or water. I think my blood is like 57% iced tea, and other than that, obviously just a nice bottle of water is good for reading. The fifth question is e-reader or physical book. And so I said, for this question, physical for sure. I love just having like the physical book in my hands, but I do want to get into using my Kobo because I've had it for like 2 years or something, and I barely use it at all. And when I did use it, it wasn't even for reading. It was like I used it as a tablet. So yeah, I would really like to start using my Kobo. It would be like a cheaper way to read. Like, the books cost less as ebooks, and just, yeah, ones that I don't need to own physically, I would like to start using my Kobo to read them. The question for F is fictional character you probably would have actually dated in high school. So this is kind of funny. Like, I couldn't pick one that I would actually date. Like, of course you want to say all the ones you love, and you're going to be like, oh, I would date him, but like, who would you actually date? And so I said Dimitri from Vampire Academy. I wouldn't necessarily date, like, him specifically, but I find it funny because he's, like, quite a few years older than Rose in the Vampire Academy series, and my boyfriend's 4 years older than me, and, like, I started dating him in high school, so I just thought it was funny, like that's someone I would actually date, is, like, an older guy. And also, he does have some, like, traits that, like, I like in a person, like, when I'm dating them. Like, he's just, like, really supportive, and just, yeah, I like Dimitri a lot, and I ship Rose and Dimitri real hard. I don't know if they have a ship name, because I suck, but I love them. The question for G is, glad you gave this book a chance. The book that I picked for that was actually Illuminae by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. It was having, like, a lot of good reviews. It has so much hype. But for me, I've never really read sci-fi. It's just not something I read or, like, watch in movies a lot. So I gave it a chance, and it was actually really good. I gave it 5 stars. Like, it was definitely a 5-star book. It's written really cool, so that's why I thought it would be an interesting, like, intro into reading sci-fi. And yep, I'm glad I gave it a chance. It's a very good book. So go read it if you have not. The question for H is hidden gem book. And I don't really know what to pick for this, but I picked one that's, like, a little bit less popular, and there's just, like, one YouTuber that one booktuber that I've heard talk about it the most, and so I gave it a try, so I feel like it's a hidden gem. So the hidden gem book is Stolen Songbird by Danielle L. Jensen. It was really good. Honestly, I don't even think I was able to write a review because I just didn't know, like, what I thought, but I knew it was definitely, like, a 4 or 4.5 out of 5-star book. And so I think, like, it deserves more hype than it has. The question for I is important moment in your reading life. And I said, of course, finding booktube was, like, a really important moment in my reading life because it got me back into reading and pretty much just into reading in general. Now that I've already read, I think, like, 30 or 31 books this year, I'm, like, really proud of myself. and I'm really enjoying reading a lot. The question for J is just finished, and my book that I just finished is A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. I really liked this. Like, I actually enjoyed it a lot, but I felt like in a way it still didn't blow me away. Like, I had an easy time putting it down, which when a book's more like 5 stars, I can't put it down. I just like have to keep reading it. But for like a first book, it was really good, and I think I gave it 4 stars. So yeah, just finished that. Okay, so the question for K is kinds of books you won't read. So there's not like a book I just won't read because it's like a kind of book, like a genre or something. But ones that usually don't like pick up my interest at all are historical books. Like, I don't know what it is, but usually when I look at it and it says like, this book is set in 1862, I'm like,
no thank you.
Yeah, no thanks. But yeah, no, like if it sounds really interesting and then it just like happens to be like historical, or if it's like a fantasy book that's set in the past, that usually doesn't bother me at all because fantasy is like not the real world. But for some reason, I just really am not interested in books that are set like in history. And like I said, like I don't read as much sci-fi, but it's not like I won't read it. So the question for L is longest book you've read. The longest book I've read is A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas because it is 699 pages. Yeah, and ACOMAF's like 624 or something like that. But it's so sad because it looks shorter than ACOMAF because they made the pages like really, really thin. But I promise you, this is the longest book I've read. I haven't read a book over 700 pages yet, so yeah. Sarah J. Maas is revealing the like title and cover of the novella soon. That's coming out in May, and I'm like, I'm dead inside. Don't worry about it. It's fine. The question for M is major book hangover because of, and I would say I haven't really had a super bad book hangover before, but if it was any books, it probably would be A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. Yeah, sorry, I'm going to mention these books like 10 times in this video, but it would probably be those books, or like specifically ACOMAF, because knowing the third one was out and like I just was choosing not to read it was like giving me a book hangover. In the back of my mind, I was like, I could read ACOWAR right now, like it's out, like I have it, I own it, I could read it. And so it just like gave me a hangover, like I didn't want to read anything else. So yeah. The question for N is number of bookcases you own, and this is currently the only bookshelf I own, and once we're moving to Barrie, I'm gonna be buying another bookshelf. So anyway, I have one now, I have a smaller one, I'm buying a bigger one. Technically 2, but not yet. The question for O is one book you have read multiple times. So the only book I've read multiple times, I believe, is Perfect Chemistry by Simone Elcalez, if that's how you say it. I read it 2 times, and I think it's like 2.5 because I read it once, and then I wanted to reread it, but only got like halfway through. And then since I have started reading again, I reread it, and yeah, so that's the most, 2.5 times. And I love this book. It just like has like it's nostalgic for me, has good memories, so I love it. So the question for P is preferred place to read. So I have a loft bed, so I like reading there, but it's like kind of uncomfortable because it's not like properly against a wall or anything, so when I sit up it's like really weird, but not the point. So I like sitting in my bed or my boyfriend's bed to read, or like just a couch. Like I like reading on the couch because it's just cozy. It's just a good time. The question for Q is quote that inspires you / gives you all the feels from a book you've read. So the first one I wrote down, the quote is from The Kite Runner, which I had to read for, I think, is it grade 10? Yeah, so I had to read The Kite Runner for grade 10, and the quote was, a man who has no conscience, no goodness, does not suffer. And then obviously, if I had to mention ACOMAF, I have The Phone Case, and the quote is, to the stars who listen and the dreams that are answered. The question for R is reading regret. And so one of my regrets is like that I still haven't read Harry Potter to this day. Like I think I've seen like 1 or 2 of the movies, and I've never read the Harry Potter books at all. The question for S is series you started and need to finish, and all the books are out in that series. So the 2 series I wrote down is Vampire Academy. You can't see it, I don't think, at all, but I have all 6 books and I've read like 3 of them, so that's a series that I started and need to finish. And the other one is The Shades of Magic. I don't know if that's technically, like, I would call that a series still, even though it's a trilogy, but all 3 of the books are out, and I read the first one. The question for T is 3 of your all-time favorite books. The thing I wrote down was the ACOTAR trilogy. Like, all 3 of them is just, like, my favorite book. Everyone would say ACOMAF for the most part, like, other than a couple people, but I honestly have a hard time picking between ACOMAF and ACOWAR. So yeah, just the ACOTAR trilogy, just can't pick between them. Those are my favorite. My next all-time favorite book is Crank by Ellen Hopkins. And lastly, I think I would say I'll Give You the Sun by Jandy Nelson is probably my favorite. The question for you is Unapologetic Fangirl 4. And as I wrote down, clearly you can tell I'm an unapologetic fangirl for the ACOTAR trilogy and the books that are going to come out. I will definitely still be a fangirl. Like, I don't know, there's like a 1% chance I won't like those books. So yeah. The question for V is very excited for this release more than all the others. If I'm just going to mention the ACOTAR trilogy for the 500th time, I'm really excited for the novella coming out in May. Ooh, I forget the author, but I'm definitely excited for Little and Lion. That might have already come out by now, because I think it was, like, it's an August release, but Little and Lion is about, like, this girl, her brother, like, is diagnosed with bipolar, so they're, like, close and they're dealing with that, and then she, like, falls in love with her brother's girlfriend or something. It just sounds really interesting, and so I'm excited for that book as well. The question for W is worst bookish habit. So one of my worst bookish habits is, like, freaking out if someone touches my book, like, or if it does get, like, a bit damaged. I'm like, oh my god, like, it has a bent page, which is, like, not the biggest deal, but, like, I'm just the type of person who likes to keep my books really pristine. I'm just the type of person who will, like, freak out if you touch my book. I'm like, don't, you're gonna rip it, don't touch it. And the other one that's the worst bookish habit is not reading a sequel for, like, so long that I forget what the first book was about, and I'm like, I'm never gonna reread the first book unless it was, like, amazing. The question for X is X marks the spot, 27th book on my shelf.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27.
Oh, that's tragic. I was hoping it'd be a more interesting book. Alright, so the 27th book on my shelf is The Beginning of Everything by Robin Schneider. I want to read this, like, in theory, but I was honestly thinking of giving this away when I probably do an unhaul soon. I might actually do a video for that if I end up unhauling books. But, yeah, I was thinking of adding it to the unhaul pile just because I've owned it for, like, 4 years and I still haven't picked it up, so clearly I'm not that interested in it. Like, it's just, like, a contemporary, I think it's a bit of a romance, but I just don't care anymore. I just don't care. The second last question, why, is your latest book purchase? And so I just filmed a book outlet unboxing video. It's probably going up before this. So that is my latest purchase of books, is the book outlet books. So yeah, if you want, you can go watch the video. I'll link it in the description because I don't know how to do that weird iCard thing. The very last question is Z Snatcher, like Sleep Snatcher book. So the last book that kept me up late, so I would say probably like Obsidian and Onyx from the Lux series kept me up late because I was like reading them and I was like, oh, I'll just read a chapter or two, and then I end up wanting to like keep reading it, and I stayed up till like 2 o'clock. Like I already stayed up till 2 in the morning, but not usually reading, so that one kept me up. So yeah, those are my Sleep Snatcher books, Z Snatchers. That was the A to Z Bookish Survey. Let me know what you thought. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any of the same answers to these questions, hit me up. We can be best friends. But yeah, so that was my alphabetical questions and answers. And I hope you are having a grand old day. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Peace the heck out. Wow, 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 wow. Oh, okay, that fell. Fix your Does it smell good? Not really. Ah, it's like dusty actually. Fuck. Anyway, those are my books.
Oh, I almost kicked the plate off your bed.
Please don't. I'm so silly. I just love it. Anyway, I keep saying like I said, but I don't even know if I said that before. Said? Do we say Z in Canada? I don't know. Ow, I tripped.